So let me tell you real quick about my journey, and I'm going to show a pictorial journey because, again, I retired from the government, and I was on the documentary Kiss the Ground. They just followed me everywhere. I didn't even know what they were doing. But today I'm going to build on what Adam started. And some of the most things, I'm going to talk to you from a global and a national situation. I'm going to tell you where we're at globally and nationally. I think there's only one person that's traveled more than me in here is Dr. Huber. He's probably been in every country. I've been in 6 continents the last 24 months, and I've been in every state teaching soil health. And so I'm going to share with you where our situation is on a global and a national scale. The first thing that I have the biggest struggle with dealing with agronomists, soil scientists, farmers, is this. They do not realize, the majority do not understand, the soil is alive. The soil's alive. We have been teaching it's a growing medium. We'll talk about that in a second. Third, we don't understand the goal. We do not understand the goal. The goal I was taught in college, at 8 years of college, how to control nature with our chemistry, our tillage, force it. Not one professor said, no, Ray, emulate it, mimic it, love it, nurture it. You know, I asked farmers, I want you to sit in an audience, and farmers, I said, farmers, how many were taught to love, to nurture, to mimic, emulate? Not one person raises their hand. But how many of you grew up thinking it's a battle? I actually thought that weeds were going to take over the planet. I had this perception that if I let weeds grow on my farm, that one day they're going to take the tractor, the wife, the house, and everything. It's a battle. And the last one, Adam talked about it. The biggest thing we need to change is the mindset in agriculture before we start being very careful with the tools. Okay, that's my journey traveling the whole country. Okay, I travel. Why am I so impassioned and I do so much traveling? Somebody asked, how long are you gone? Probably 2 weeks out of the month. Okay, what drove me? I was a district conservationist in Oregon, and this bothered me. We have spent billions as an agency, as a people, and notice how I wrote the word organic system in 1934. That was organic. Adam touched upon it. We destroyed the system in an organic system. It was never the tools. What Adam showed eloquently and spoke about it, it's us. It's our understanding. I buy organic. But please understand, we have a degraded resource that Adam was talking about. This is where we're at on the national scale, folks. On the whole eastern side of the country, this is what it looks like during winter. Bare. It looks like the moon. If you go from California all the way to Pennsylvania and you fly the airplane, this is what you see. What did Adam say? We're not capturing sun. We're going broke because our farms run on ancient sunlight, not new sunlight. I want us to run on new sunlight. I'm a Westerner. I grew up in New Mexico. This is the way, I was born in 1961. I went to college in New Mexico State. That's the Jornada Experiment Station. 1961, that's the way our range looked. Look at the bottom. The whole western part of our country was grassland and prairies. Now it's a desert. What's changing the climate? And what we're trying to do is fix it with spraying garbage in the atmosphere. What if we just restored the range, bring the plants, because plants bring rain. 40% of our rain comes from plants. This is where we're at on the national. We're certifying, and it's moving eastward. This is the slide Adam and I have been talking. I created that slide in 2007. The soil is hungry. It's naked, it's thirsty, it's running a fever. This is a global. 20% of our terrestrial land is naked. That's the problem. We never talk about it. Another thing Adam touched upon right now, why do farmers have the highest suicide rate? My goodness, I could not wrap my mind around it. There was 2 things that drove me. The degradation of the resource, and as I was working as a district conservationist, I could not grasp why couldn't farmers make a living? Why could you bring your son or daughter into your operation and make a living on 500 acres? I could not grasp that. And you know, when I asked my peers, why can't we make a living on 500 acres, 2 families? Shut up, Ray, and spend the money. Nobody would answer that. Why can we not make 2 families work on 500 acres? And the Treasure Valley, we got water. We got irrigation. We got great soils. And still could not bring the sun into the operation. It was here. And then another thing that bothered me about this, why is our suicide rate so high among farmers? Why? Because farmers are the poorest millionaires I know. They're worth millions, but no cash flow. This is the problem. I started to realize the monopolies are controlling, because the wealth of the land used to flow to the local community. Look who's taken the biggest share of the wealth, agribusiness. Is it their fault? No, it's not. It's the way we built agriculture since the premise. Monsanto just filled the void of poor farming practices. This is the rural America right now. Our farm programs, the way we do business, CRP, a lot of things we do, and the way we do business, the wealth used to flow through the local community, went to the local shoe, to the local store. Now the wealth goes to corporate America. Am I against corporate America getting wealth? No. But the farmer and rancher should get his wealth too. It goes through them first. They take the risk. That's why I love about regenerative agriculture. This is the issue. When I started speaking out as a government employee, I barely left with my pension because I had the giant fertilizer companies now, Ray, shut your mouth up. We don't want you talking about reducing fertilizer. Because I had farmers that have eliminated fertilizer in their operation. Please understand the ancestral relationships that go on in Washington, D.C. I knew I had to leave because I knew it wasn't just big tech, the military industrial complex, big pharma, all of them are intertwined. They run the country. I had to learn the hard way. I said, I am not going to fix it from the top up, but I have to fix it from the bottom up. And do you know how it starts? With people like you, the women that care and they love their kids and their children. That's how we're going to change this whole thing. Adam touched upon this. This is where we're at this year. It is brutal. Arkansas Extension said they're negative $85 in soybeans. Rice, negative $258. Negative $273 in corn. How about cotton? Negative $352. Extension numbers this year. And you know what Adam said? We are sick and tired of the monopolies. When corn goes up, fertilizer goes up. Follow the track. Follow the money. That's why I'm going to get a new t-shirt. I trust in science, depending who paid for it. The science I trust now is nature. I look it through her filters, and I'll tell you if the science is right. I've learned the hard way. I spent 8 years in the university with the wrong premise. 8 years. So what I did, artificial intelligence, I said, hey, create me a graph and tell me about the ancestral relationship between the military complex, big pharma, and all this, and look at the interaction. And guess who's in the center? Universities. You know who gave me the biggest pushback when we first started the regenerative movement? Universities. They gave me the biggest pushback. We couldn't even change the 590 standard for nutrients because we had all the universities, because the universities push the money through the universities, and then we have this vicious cycle. We keep training our students the same way. Medical field is the same way. It's the same vicious machine and spewing the same type of doctors, agronomists, and we get the same results. Big money owns this. Now, how do I reach them? When I reach somebody like Adam, and Adam's not easy to reach. He's educated. He's college educated. It takes humility to understand that you may not have it right. Please understand the biggest limiting factor for regenerative agriculture to grow is social conditioning. What does that mean? We condition our kids. We condition them in church, work, school. Oh no, Ray, you can't do regenerative. Condition. When your son or daughter says, hey, ma'am, Pam, his child comes up to Pam, hey, can we do it this way? Oh no, we can't do it because grandpa did it this way, this way. Condition, condition, condition. Social condition, that's why I love sheep. Sheep are like humans. Sheep do not like to be separated. If one sheep's outside the fence, it'll kill itself to be with the rest of the herd. You know where a good example of social conditioning? COVID. That was an excellent example of social conditioning. You're horrible if you don't get the vaccine. Conditioning. I got it at work all the time. You can't make it work. Please understand, when farmers go on the local level, go to regenerative agriculture or they go to organic, do you know what the local community says? You're an idiot. Condition. Please understand, you're dealing with a social issue and a spiritual issue. Now I'm going to show you, I don't think we have do we have the volume for this to work? Ready? I love showing this little cartoon of social conditioning. Now watch this. See if it's going to work. Nope, no volume. Okay, so what it is, I'll just go real quick. A scientist put 5 monkeys in a cage. And so what they did is they put the bananas on top, and so any monkey that would reach the top, they would absolutely squirt them down with water. They conditioned them. So they kept going through this whole series, and any monkey that reached for the bananas, they would get beaten. So the scientists said, hey, we'll take one monkey out, and we'll replace them one at a time. And guess what they found out? As they kept doing this experiment and experiment over, in fact, all the monkeys were replaced. Some of the monkeys don't even remember why they were still getting beat up. But here's what the response was. And the scientists, and I think this is the premise of social conditioning. And here it goes, the little tagline. It says, maybe. Why do we get beat up? Well, maybe. If you ask the new group, well, maybe. Well, I don't know, but that's just the way things were done here. Does this sound familiar? Social conditioning. Now, how do I reach a group of farmers like that have been conditioned through the university, the way they grew up on the farm? It's tough. This is the way I need to realize I taught them how to look at holistic. I want you to look at the medical field. This is how we were taught in medical medicine. This is the way I was taught resources. When you go to college, we learned the Western medicine. You broke it up into pieces. So when you go to the heart doctor, you go to the heart doctor. But the first scientist should know how the heart and the whole body works as holistic medicine does. Functional doctor. I do not go to regular doctors. I go to functional, holistic doctors. I don't want you working on me because you look at me as a liver or as a heart. And their training is horrid to nutrients for the body. They know nothing about nutrition. I know more about nutrition than they do. But I was taught agronomy this way. Plant pathology here, biology here, chemistry here, and not one professor said, let's put it all together as a whole. I look at the resource like this, whole. Do you know what we left out? The microbes. We never talked about them. And I took graduate level soil microbiology. So how did I reach people? I started with that basic little rain simulator. My little plastic jars. When they saw that, I got a no-till soil on one side and conventional on one side. And guess what? What'll happen is the water will flow through it, and then the one with no-till, the water will flow quicker. That was the only way I could reach farmers, with these little demonstrations. Then I started with a bigger demonstration. Let's see. Now, who created this movement? Was it Ray Archuleta? No. I captured these pans. What they are pans of soils. We do no-till, conventional, we do pasture, overgrazed, and then we'll measure the water running off and infiltrating. Those jars in the front are runoff. The jars in the back is infiltration. And farmers know if you don't get the water in the ground, you lose money. That was the demonstration that I slapped you in the face and made you realize you don't know how your soil works. If I had a choice, I wish that the senators and the House of Representatives and President Trump would see this demonstration. If they would see this demonstration, all of agriculture would change. That's the only way I could reach professors, farmers, every group, environmental groups, mama and dad, these demonstrations. That's the first rain simulator in Mexico. First one in Mexico. I do not go into big operations. Yesterday, this last week, I had a group of farmers. I had a group of farmers that came from Brazil, 2 million acres. They asked me, Ray, you want to consult? I said, no. Unless you buy that $6,000 rain simulator, I am not going to talk to you. I will not waste my time. I got one chance with you. I got to train everybody. And you owners who are the millionaires, if you don't come to the class, I don't want to consult. Why? Because if you do not take care of your land and you expect your middle staff to take care of it, all of them will go to school. Every school, we should be teaching this. From grade school to everybody, we should have a basic understanding how the soil works and how our planet works. And then the other demonstration I use is the slate test, where I drop I drop a tilled soil or organic, believe it or not, even organic, because so much tillage. These are two same soils in North Carolina. By the way, that video was banned from the USDA website. I'll tell you why. That's a conventional till vegetable. That's no-till. Ray Steyer has been using cover crops for 40 years, has not tilled, and he uses this nasty little herbicide called glyphosate. He went from 5 herbicides down to 1. I said, Ray, you could be organic because I'm too old, Ray. When the soil falls apart like that, means no aggregate stability. The pores are going to be plugged up. This soil is addicted to fertilizer, pesticides. It's bacteria dominant. That soil has all the soil food web intact. When I use those 2 demonstrations, then I got farmers' attention. That's using a soil that's cover crops for 40 years, rolling it, and by the way, glyphosate. The other ones, till, baby, till. Same soils a mile away. Am I for glyphosate? No. I am not. It's a tool. I take a shovel too, when they go to my class, and I go to the fence row, and I go to the field, and this is the first thing I do, Doc. I take the shovel. I have a saying about the shovel. There's a saying, the eyes are the windows to the soul. The shovel is the window to the soul of the soil. I go to the field, and I go to the fence row, and look at the difference. This is the fence row. This is nature following all the principles, and this is our farms. All the other issues that we're suffering with. We don't get the nutrient density out of our food because our soils are degraded like Adam was talking about. Unless we fix that, we're not gonna be able to reduce the herbicides, period. Now let me show you what I talk about also, the power of life. Most of our farmers do not know the power of life. When I show them that picture, I said, now farmers, that's compaction, right? Kevin, that's compaction. And I said, how does that tree survive that? How many have seen that, by the way? I grew up in the Rockies. That's very common. Right, Leslie? So I asked him, I said, how does that survive that compaction issue? Plants make a relationship with fungi, break rock down. Bacteria break rock down. They make it available. They also leak powerful acids to get the minerals out of the rock, goes to the plant, goes to the animal, and goes to you. Plants do that. How many have seen, you think I think my soil sucks? That's Australia. You know what that is? Gypsum salts. How come it's dark, audience, on the top? Anybody? Kevin, how come it's dark on the top? Life. I love that Frankenstein movie. Life. You remember that? I'm dating myself. Life. The plants and the bacteria change that. Most of our farmers do not understand the power of the covers. That's where we're at. Plant and soil are one. I love this. Leaking exudates, leaking into this, thousands of molecules captured by the plants, converting light energy into liquid sand to feed the microbes, to feed these. This is what I miss, Dr. Huber, in college. This is what I missed, Amy, in college, right here. These are the micro cows. We left them out because we looked at things reductionist. Who would have thought that the microbes help regulate the climate? No aggregates, no infiltration. Microbes do that. They bring the nutrients out of the rock. I miss that. The more we spray it, the more we till it, the more we hurt them. This is chronic use of our tools. Too much tillage, too much overhaying, too much fertilizer, too much spraying. Costa Rica, look at the diversity. Look at Iowa on the bottom. If you ask me what I'm concerned about, insect genom, insect apocalypse. We are losing our insects at a large rate. We're losing bees. Why? We spray too much. I tell my organic people, you till too much. I tell my no-tillers, you spray too much. Well, conventional, I was you. So we need to understand where we're at, or our producers on a global scale. This is where our forests a couple hundred years ago. Most of our soils were like this, organic matter. They were dark. Over 100 years, they look, that's the same picture, folks, that's the same soil. Same soil. Chronic tillage, chronic spraying, and no cover crops. Take. That's where we're at on a global scale. So why is that important? Bear with me. Let me show you. Look at all the protozoa and the life, nematodes. This soil is in balance. Look at all the living creatures. Now look at this one. You see no protozoa, you see no nematodes, it's not in balance, it's all bacteria. There's a difference. This is why I don't get farmers off chemicals right away. The soil life is not there. You know what would happen if we quit all chemistry right away? We would go hungry. Let me show you once you get the soil healthy. The only thing that separates that farm is of a 12-foot road. This is a conventional field. This was taken a week ago. Look at all the weeds in a conventional tilled system. Spray, till, everything. Look at no-till on the right. And he may even use a glyphosate. Look at the weed control. Once you shift the soil biology, the weed population shifts. And we use less herbicide. See, herbicides, pest, disease start in the soil. If we don't get the soil right, we can't control the other pests. We can't control the weeds. Okay, so what is the goal? Biomimicry. You know, Velcro was designed by a great guy who says, you know how they learned how to do Velcro? He mimicked the cockleburr. You know what the name of that guy is? Billionaire. This is the cities if we used biomimicry, mimic life. This is the way our cities would look. This is the way we design cities. Do you see the difference? If we would mimic nature? Do you know that we increase, if we just put more trees, we lower the crime rate, we lower the temperatures. We were designed to be part of the system. Adam and I teach farmers to do this. We mimic the prairie and we mimic the forest. What do they all have? Livestock in there, they have animals in it. They never till. All the principles are right there. We teach that. We want that architecture and those patterns. This is a cover crop mix, mimicking the forest and the prairie. And we have millions of acres. And when you go to Adams County, this is what you see. Now, we also mimic the buffalo. This is Alejandro's ranch in Mexico. 10 inches of rain. He's moving the cows like buffalo on a 30,000 acre ranch. 2 cowboys mimicking buffalo. And look what he's done to the desert. Please keep in mind, folks, I grew up in New Mexico. If you go to New Mexico right now, this is the way it looks. If you go all the way from Albuquerque, all of El Paso, hundreds and hundreds of miles, scientists, range scientists said those are invasive creosote, it will never come back. Alejandro said, I'm glad my cows did not read the literature. Look how Alejandro changed it. We can heal the deserts. Without cattle, we will not heal the land. I will say it again. Without cattle, we will not heal the land. Because now let's finish it up with a case study real quick. How many heard about Sri Lanka when they went organic? What happened? It was a disaster, wasn't it? Let me tell you why it was such a disaster. First thing, they shifted policy right away. The government abruptly banned chemicals and fertilizer right off the top of the bat. They didn't understand it took 5 to 10 years to transition. And then they didn't give enough support to the farmers to train them and teach them regenerative agriculture and organic. And another thing is the yields dropped precipitously, had a 20 to 40% loss. And look what happened. The tea exports went down. Farmers lacked access to quality compost, vermiculture. They weren't ready infrastructure-wise. So the cost, they just went almost broke. They lacked the biological fertilizers. They weren't ready. They didn't have the compost. They didn't have the logistics set up. A lot of farmers didn't have the training. So it was doomed for failure. It wasn't the goal organic. Organic is an amazing goal. It's not organic's the problem. We have to be ready for it. Economic fallout, food prices spike, leading to shortages, foreign services dropped. The crisis compounded the debt and the foreign exchange crisis. And then another thing went out. Farmers were not consulted to support their education. Many resisted and they smuggled fertilizer. Organic adoption requires community-led innovation, trust, and only not government degree. Look at the last one. Organic adoption requires all of us to teach, not force it upon them. Teach them, like give wisdom, like Adam was talking about. Okay, so what was the results? $2 billion of foreign exchange debt, reduced their tea exports for $400 million. Rice, they had to buy more rice, and they dropped their GDP by 5%. It was a painful lesson. Okay? Widespread farm income loss, poverty rose, food inflation increased by 50%. Okay, wrapping it up. Leave you with some hope. Leave you with hope. 20, 30 years ago, I was 40 years old, didn't have hope for agriculture. Now I do. Look what's happened. Dan DeSutter, I was at his farm last week, 4,500 acres, 200 bushel corn he's expecting this year. No chemicals, no limited tillage, really wise with his tillage, cover crops and cows, integration. 4,500 acres. He went from conventional to no-till and covers and chemistry to none. It took him 15 years to get there. It did not overcome overnight. He's supporting 4 families, 3 sons, and all their families on 4,500 acres. What did it take? What Adam said, understanding. What changed on Dan? He understands how the soil works, and he's a man of integrity. No more of these, no more insecticides, no more fungicides, no more pesticides, none of them. I also have another hope. A plug-in for you, my friend. The chemistry's changing. I see companies like Firehawk using bioherbicides. They're not caustic. They approach nature's molecules. It's coming. We did a demonstration on my farm, didn't we? Okay, Mexico, real quick. Agave, I'm going there next week. This is the way tequila was raised. Now it's raised this way. How do you learn? YouTube University, best college in the world. You know what the common ground about all of them that changed regenerative? They love people in the land. Herman Jensen, 50,000 acres. He watched me on Kiss the Ground. He says, Ray, come and help us. I said, okay. It took 2 times to teach all their agronomists. He has 50 agronomists on staff. We had to train the rain simulator. We had to go through that whole thing. It took 2 trainings. Now he's doing cover crop seedings in between. It's dropped his fertilizer, his herbicide costs. Nicaragua, the highest premium cigars in the world, Cuban cigars. He wants to go regen. He wants to get rid of tillage, any chemistry, and he's grown the top premium cigars in the world. Nestor. You know what I love about Nestor? He provides daycare for his employees. He has 10,000 employees. I want to work with people like him. And how about Alan Aguirre, largest table grape grower in Mexico. He sells all his grapes in United States. Right now he's got 5,000 acres in organic. He wants to do another 5. Currently, the conventional grapes get 20 fungicides and they're sold in the United States. And we eat them. You know what I love about Alan Aguirre? He provides dental, psychological care, medical care for his 7,000 to 8,000 employees. That's the kind of man I want to help. I'll be brutally honest. I hate big ag. I hated it for a long time. Then I realized I had the wrong approach. If you have people that have morals and integrity, it changes the whole community. So I'm really honored to work with these guys. So to wrap it up. Folks, this is where we're at realistically. Please understand the law of diffusion. So here's your homework assignment, everybody. It's time. Thank God it's the last slide. I want everybody to go and type the law of diffusion in Simon Sinek. Simon Sinek, the 9-minute video. He's an amazing speaker. Folks, this is where we're at. We're at the early innovators, early adopters in Regen Ag. We are not here. We are not 13%. Because if it was 13%, the whole country would follow. One of the things that he teaches about, Simon Sinek, is if you're going to start a culture revolution, ignore this group. Ignore them. These people ignore because they will waste your time. I want to work with the Aguirres, the Nestor Plasencia. We are not in a global area. We're here. In the United States, we're less than 1 or 2%. Understand where we're at. Then once we shift and they get it down and they understand how to do it, they will follow them. The rest of the group will follow them. That's where we're at. So get a proper perspective on the national and global scale. We're just barely starting. But I have hope. We're going to change the world with you folks in here. It's just not me. And last, I promise. I always say that. One more slide. And I told Amy, I said, Amy, we're doing this an injustice because this is actually a 3-day school that Adam and I teach. And I think this is one of the coolest sayings that I've ever came across. We scientists don't know how to do that. I usually think the top environmental problems were biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, and climate change. I thought that with 30 years of good science, we would address these problems. He says, but I was wrong. The top environmental problems are selfishness, greed, and apathy. And to deal with that, we need a spiritual and cultural transformation. And we scientists don't know how to do that. That's what we need, folks. A cultural, spiritual transformation that's happening here today. You are part of that transformation. Do I support what you guys are doing with your bill? Absolutely. I don't want that chemistry if we don't have to use it. But please don't think that farmers get up next morning, oh yeah, I would like to put some more toxin out there. They do not understand where they're at. 99% of our farmers don't know the soil's alive, folks. So you gotta be patient with them. Please remember, we taught them that way. We as a society pushed them in the corner. Get bigger or get out. We gotta feed the world. You heard all that garbage? We taught that. Extension, NRCS, we embraced it and we saluted it. I leave you the last statement. I am not here because people in regenerative, here's the biggest criticism of regenerative and organic. We can't feed the world. I'm an ex-Peace Corps volunteer and I'm here to tell you my job is not to feed the world. It's to feed our country, and let's teach the world to feed themselves. That's what we're here to do. That makes sense to me. Thank you, Amy, for having us here. And they didn't throw us out, and this is good. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, folks. You guys are awesome.